Okay, I want you to picture this scenario. It's 3 a.m. You are exhausted,
Mhm.
the room is dark, the bed is comfortable, and biologically you should be fast asleep. But instead, your brain has decided that right now, this exact moment, is the perfect time to replay a slightly awkward conversation you had with a barista in 2018.
Or maybe to conduct a detailed high-def simulation of a meeting that's not even happening until next Tuesday.
Oh, the catastrophic simulation. I know that one well. It's that universal human experience of the loop, the spiral. And here's the kicker. It feels like your brain is working hard, doesn't it?
It does.
It feels like you're doing something important, like you're solving the problem.
And that's the trap. It mimics problem solving. But there's this great analogy for this from the source material we're diving into today.
Mhm.
Overthinking is like a rocking chair.
Okay.
Gives you something to do, it burns a massive amount of energy, but it gets you absolutely nowhere.
I have such a love-hate relationship with that image. It's so accurate, but it's also, frustrating. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling the beast that is overthinking. But, and this is really important, we are not just going to say, hey, don't worry, be happy.
Because that is useless advice.
It's worse than useless. It's annoying.
So annoying.
So we've pulled together a stack of sources. We're talking psychological best practices, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, productivity hacks to build an actual toolkit. We want to give you the mechanics of how to get out of that rocking chair. But before we get to the how, I kind of want to push back on something.
Of course.
You said overthinking mimics problem solving. But thinking is good. Reflection is necessary. How do I actually know the difference between, I'm being a thoughtful, reflective person and I am spiraling? Where's the line?
That's a great question because on the surface, the content often looks exactly the same. You're
Right.
thinking about a problem, but the sources, they make a really clear distinction based on the outcome.
The outcome, okay.
Productive reflection focuses on a solution and on the future. It's linear. You go from A to B to C, and you arrive at some kind of plan.
Okay, so there's a destination. You're going somewhere.
Exactly. Right. Overthinking or rumination focuses on the problem in the past. It's circular. You go from A to B, then back to A, and then to B again. But the biggest indicator is just how you feel afterward.
How you feel.
Yeah. If you spend 20 minutes thinking about an issue and you feel empowered or like resolved, you are reflecting. If you feel drained, anxious, and smaller than when you started, you were overthinking.
That is a really helpful metric. If I feel worse after thinking about it than I did before, I'm not solving the problem, I'm just visiting it.
You're stewing in it.
I am stewing in it. Okay, so let's say I'm stewing, I'm in the loop, the rocking chair is moving fast, I need an emergency brake. What do our sources say we can do, in the heat of the moment?
Well, the first step is about metacognition. So, thinking about your thinking. The technique is called labeling.
Labeling? Is that just saying I'm worried? Because, I usually know that I'm worried.
It's a little more specific than that. When you catch yourself in that loop, you explicitly label the process, not the content. So you say to yourself, I am spiraling, or I am having a catastrophic thought.
So I'm not engaging with what I'm worried about. I'm just calling out the fact that I'm worrying.
Correct. And there's actually real neuroscience behind this. It's sometimes called affect labeling. When you are spiraling, your amygdala, your brain's fear center, is just lighting up. And studies show that the simple act of labeling that emotion, it activates the prefrontal cortex, which in turn dampens the amygdala's response.
So it's like a biological seesaw. If I force the logic part of my brain to speak, the emotional part has to quiet down.
In a nutshell, yes. It creates psychological distance. You stop being the person falling off the cliff, and you become the person watching a movie of someone falling off a cliff.
It lowers the temperature.
Just enough to regain some control.
Okay, I can see that. But sometimes that movie is really loud. What if labeling isn't enough? What if the loop is just hammering me?
Then you might need a harder interrupt. Several sources mention a visualization technique often called the stop command. It's very, very literal. You mentally scream S-O-P, or you visualize this massive red stop sign.
Hold on, we have to address the elephant in the room here. We've done other deep dives where we talked about the white bear effect.
Right.
If you try to suppress a thought, like don't think of a white bear, you just end up thinking about it more. Isn't screaming stop just suppression? Won't that backfire?
That is such a critical distinction. And you are absolutely right that chronic suppression creates a rebound effect. If you spend your whole day trying to push a beach ball underwater, it is going to pop up eventually.
So how is this any different?
The stop command isn't a long-term strategy. It's like a triage tourniquet.
Yeah.
You use S.P to break the immediate pattern, but and this is the part people miss, you have to immediately pivot your attention somewhere else.
You can't just say stop and stare at the wall.
No, you have to give the brain a new job. You have to redirect that energy.
Okay.
Precisely. And the best redirection isn't another thought. It's physical reality. This brings us to one of the most cited techniques in our stack. Grounding. Specifically, the 5-4-3-2-1 technique.
I see this all over the internet. Count 5 things you see. It feels a little bit, I don't know, like a kindergarten teacher.
It sounds simple, but the mechanism is really sophisticated. Overthinking happens in the clouds. It's abstract, it's hypothetical, it's future-based. Grounding forces your brain back down to earth.
The physical present.
Yes, but you have to do it with intensity.
Walk us through the intensity part. What does that mean?
So you acknowledge 5 things you can see, but don't just glance. I mean, really look at the texture of the table, the way the light is hitting the corner. Then 4 things you can physically touch. Feel the pressure of your feet on the floor, the fabric of your jeans.
You're trying to flood the dashboard with new data.
Yes, exactly. Then 3 things you can hear. The hum of the fridge, a car outside, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste.
And why does this work so well? Is it just a distraction?
It's about bandwidth. Your brain has limited processing power. It literally cannot run a high-definition simulation of a catastrophe in 2028, while it's also processing the tactile sensation of denim and the smell of coffee.
You're forcing it to switch inputs.
You are. Okay, so that's the emergency brake. That's for when you're already in trouble. But I want to talk about prevention. How do we stop the rocking chair from even starting?
This gets us into what we can call containment strategies. And since you brought up the white bear earlier, this is the actual solution to that suppression paradox.
Okay, lay it on me.
The solution isn't to never think about the worry. It's to schedule it. This is the worry window.
Pencil in a panic attack for 4:30.
It sounds absurd, I know, but stick with me. You pick a time, say 5 p.m., and you give yourself 15 minutes. That is your designated worry time. If a worry pops up at 10 a.m., you don't say, don't think about this. You say, I am not ignoring this, but I'm saving it for 5.
I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm worried about a deadline, my brain is not going to respect a calendar invite. It's going to say, no, we're panicking now.
At first, yes, but it's a trust exercise. If you actually sit down at 5 p.m. and let yourself worry, your brain learns that you aren't suppressing the signal, you're just deferring it.
Does it actually help reduce the anxiety, though? Or am I just delaying the misery?
Well, usually, by the time 5 p.m. rolls around, the emotional urgency has faded. You get to the appointment and you realize, actually, I don't really care about that anymore. The chemical wave has passed.
That makes sense. You're decoupling the thought from that immediate emotional spike.
Exactly. And you can make this even stronger with externalization. This is basically writing it down, but the sources emphasize why it works. Inside your head, thoughts are so fluid, they loop and they morph.
They feel huge.
When you write them down a brain dump, you turn them into static objects. You can look at a piece of paper and say, oh, that's just a sentence. That's not a monster. You're turning emotion into data.
There was one other containment strategy in the reading that I actually laughed at when I first saw it. The thinking chair.
Oh, this is a classic.
It sounds like a timeout for adults.
It basically is.
Yeah.
But it's rooted in something called stimulus control. It's the same logic used for treating insomnia. If you lay in bed awake for hours, your brain starts to associate the bed with being awake and anxious.
So the bed itself becomes a trigger.
Correct. The thinking chair technique breaks that association for worrying. You designate a specific chair in your house, not your desk, not the couch you relax on, as the worry chair. If you need to spiral, you sit there. You worry as hard as you can, but, and this is the rule, when you stand up, you leave the thoughts there.
So if I'm on the couch watching TV and I start thinking about my taxes, I have to literally get up and move to the chair.
Yes, it feels ridiculous. But that's partially the point. The friction of having to move makes the rumination less appealing, and over time, your brain creates a spatial boundary. This corner is for stress, the rest of the house is for living.
It's like hacking your own conditioning. I like that. Let's shift gears. We've got the brakes, we've got the containment. Now I want to talk about the software itself, the mental frameworks. Because sometimes the way we ask questions is the problem.
This is a big one. Overthinkers are obsessed with the word why.
Why did I say that? Why am I like this?
Why is a trap. In the context of rumination, why leads to these abstract, philosophical, circular loops. You rarely get a satisfying answer to, why am I so awkward?
The answer is usually just because you're an idiot, which is not helpful.
Right. It invites self-judgment. The sources suggest a hard pivot to what or how.
Give me a concrete example. Let's say I just gave a presentation and I stumble over a slide. My brain is going, why can't I ever speak clearly?
That's the loop. You switch it to how can I practice that specific transition for next time, or
Yeah.
what specifically about that slide was confusing?
I see. Why looks backward and analyzes feelings. How looks forward and looks for actions.
Action is the antidote to overthinking. Rumination is passive, problem solving is active.
Speaking of perspective, I have to mention the time travel test, the 10-10-10 rule.
This is my personal favorite for getting quick perspective. When you're freaking out, you ask, will this matter in 10 minutes? Will this matter in 10 months? Will this matter in 10 years?
And usually the answer to the last two is a resounding no. But in the moment, it feels like it will matter forever.
We have this tendency to magnify the present. This rule forces a zoom out. If it won't matter in 10 months, it doesn't deserve 10 hours of your energy today.
That's a great reality check.
Yeah.
But there's another flavor of overthinking we haven't touched on yet. Decision paralysis. The fear of making the wrong choice.
Perfectionism.
Perfectionism. It feels like if I just think about it a little longer, I'll find the perfect answer.
Which doesn't exist. Perfectionism is just fear in a fancy suit. The sources suggest the 70% rule here.
Which is?
Don't wait for 100% certainty. Aim for 70% certainty. Once you have about 70% of the information you think you need, you act.
70% feels risky.
It is risky. But the cost of waiting for 100% is paralysis. The mantra here is, you can steer a moving car, but you can't steer a parked one. Get moving and correct your course later.
Okay, I want to take a hard left turn here. We've been talking about all these mental tricks, reframing, scheduling, labeling, but we're treating the brain like it's this computer floating in a jar. We are biological creatures. And looking at the research, you can't talk about overthinking without talking about the body.
You absolutely can't. In fact, a huge portion of what we call anxiety or spiraling is actually just a physiological mismatch.
A mismatch between what and what?
Between our ancient hardware and our modern environment. Think about it. When you get stressed, maybe an angry email comes in, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. It goes into fight or flight mode.
Right. Evolutionarily, that's so I can fight a tiger or run away.
Exactly. Your body is flooded with high-octane fuel to power intense physical movement. But what do you do in 2024 when you get that email?
I sit in my ergonomic office chair and, type really aggressively.
You sit still. You are soaking in a bath of stress hormones with nowhere for them to go. Your heart is racing, your muscles are tense, but you aren't moving. Your brain looks at the situation, high energy, no movement, and goes, wow, we must be in serious danger. I better scan for threats.
So the overthinking is the brain trying to justify the physical feeling.
Bingo. The body leads, the mind follows. You feel agitated, so your brain starts looking for reasons to be agitated. It picks a worry and starts chewing on it.
That is wild. So we're sitting here trying to think our way out of it, but the problem is actually chemical.
Which is why the most effective intervention often has nothing to do with thinking. It's movement. And I don't just mean exercise for fitness. I mean completing the stress cycle.
Including the cycles.
So you have to burn the fuel.
Right.
A brisk walk, a run, dancing around your kitchen, lifting weights. If you use the adrenaline for its intended purpose movement, your body gets the signal that the tiger is gone. It can downshift.
So walk it off isn't just a dismissive phrase. It's a biological reset.
It is scientifically valid. If you are sitting still and spiraling, you are fighting a losing battle against your own biochemistry.
This connects to sleep too, right?
Yeah.
Because I know when I'm tired, my emotional regulation just goes out the window.
It's not just emotional regulation, it's structural. When you are sleep deprived, the connection between the prefrontal cortex, the logical adult in your brain, and the amygdala, the fearful toddler, gets weaker.
The adult leaves the room.
Essentially, the amygdala becomes hyperreactive, and the part of your brain that usually says, hey, calm down, it's not a big deal, is offline. So getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep isn't a luxury, it's mental armor.
And I assume what we feed our brains matters too, the digital diet.
Oh, for sure. If you are doom scrolling before bed, you are spoon-feeding your brain chaos. Algorithms are designed to keep you engaged, often by triggering outrage or anxiety. If you consume high-anxiety content, you will produce high-anxiety thoughts. Garbage in, garbage out.
It seems so obvious, but we all do it. Okay, we've covered a massive amount of ground here. Let's try to synthesize this into a clear toolkit.
Sure. We started with the emergency brakes.
That's labeling the thought, I am spiraling, to engage the logic brain, and using the stop command to interrupt the pattern, but only if you immediately pivot.
Right. And the best pivot is grounding. the 5-4-3-2-1 technique, engaging your senses to pull your bandwidth away from the hypothetical and back to the physical.
Then we talked about containment, scheduling a worry window so you aren't suppressing thoughts, just deferring them, and using externalization, the brain dump or the thinking chair, to get the thoughts out of your head.
We covered shifting the framework, moving from why to how to focus on action, using the 10-10-10 rule to check your perspective, and using the 70% rule to beat perfectionism and decision paralysis.
And finally, the physiology, maybe the most important part. Recognize that anxiety is energy. You have to move your body to burn the cortisol. You have to prioritize sleep to keep the prefrontal cortex online.
It's a comprehensive list. But there is one final thought from the sources that I think underpins all of this. It's the aha moment regarding the root cause.
What's the root?
Uncertainty. If you dig deep enough, overthinking is almost always a demand for certainty. We replay the past to be sure we didn't mess up. We simulate the future to guarantee things will go well. We want to control the uncontrollable.
We want to guarantee that the awkward conversation didn't ruin our reputation or that the meeting next Tuesday will go perfectly.
Exactly. But that guarantee just doesn't exist. The sources suggest that the ultimate skill isn't learning to think better, it's learning to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing.
That is a tough pill to swallow.
It is, but it's also liberating. You don't need to solve the future today. You just need to trust that you can handle it when it arrives.
You can steer the car when it's moving. You don't need to steer it from the driveway.
Precisely.
Listen, we just threw a lot of tools at you. Labeling, grounding, worry windows, chairs, stress cycles. If you try to do all of them tonight, what's going to happen?
You are going to overthink your overthinking management plan, which would be very on brand but not very helpful.
So here's our challenge to you. Pick just one thing.
Yeah.
Maybe next time you feel the spiral starting, you just try the how versus why switch. Or maybe you take a walk instead of sitting on the couch. Just try one tool. See if you can stop that rocking chair for a few minutes.
Your brain and your body will thank you.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.